You guys ever get the feeling you're forgetting something? I'm sure nobody noticed. Howdy, my name is Nonat, and welcome to the long overdue final part of Advanced Archetypes. If you haven't seen all the other parts, I highly recommend checking them out right over here, because this is the last part in a series I've been doing for far longer than I should have, where we go over all of the new archetypes in Pathfinder 2nd Edition's not-so-new Advanced Player's Guide. I'll be honest, guys, so much has been going on, and I got so wrapped up in the deep dives I've been doing lately that I totally forgot to finish off this series, and that's on me. And technically, we're not even finishing up here. This is the final part of going over the archetypes in the Advanced Player's Guide, but we've still got some extra archetypes here or there in things like the Lost Omens Guide, so stick around, we'll be having more videos like that coming out soon. In fact, if you want to know exactly when they go live, I highly recommend hitting the subscribe button below. Please do it. They don't pay me if you don't subscribe. I need to feed my kids. I don't have kids. But today we are going over the final archetypes in the book, and I'm super excited, and I know you're excited too, so how about before we jump into things, I make you wait just 3 minutes longer, because guys, seriously, I highly recommend checking out this ad I'm about to run from Beadle and Grimm's. Thanks to these guys sponsoring the channels, you guys get to enjoy the entire rest of this video completely ad-free. So stick around, check out this 3-minute ad for the Beadle and Grimm's Complete Character Chronicle, link in the description. Take it away, Matthew Lillard.
Hi, my name is Matthew Lillard. You've probably seen me in many a horrible movie back in the 90s. Can we start again? It's me, Matt! Hi, I'm major motion picture star Matthew Lillard. Hi. All right, Sam. I'm Matthew Lillard. What's the line? You just do whatever the fuck. I almost had it. I got booger on my shirt. What's the first line? I was in terrible movies during the 90s. You grew up on them and you watched them, sucker. My name is Matthew Lillard. You may know me as Beadle from Beadle and Grimm's. Last couple of years, our company is focused primarily on the DM, creating battle maps, in-world handouts, jewelry items, and of course, stuffed animals. Now it's time to focus on you, the players. Because when we gather around a table, we're not there to hear a story, we're there to tell a story. All of us. And sometimes that story goes on for years and is remembered only on coffee-stained scraps of paper or 3 random journals. But worst of all, it's in your head. And why is that bad? Because I'm not that smart. Bill's way smarter than me. When he says it's Grimm that killed the frost giant that was on its way to destroy the town, I can't really argue with him because I don't have it on a journal. And if I had it in a journal, sitting on a bookshelf, you could just say, hey, check out my journal. We all know the problem with a journal. In a real game, when are you gonna use that thing? On a real night of gaming, you bounce from a core rule book to the Advanced Player's Guide, and of course your character sheet. And the entire game goes like boom, to boom, to boom, to boom, to boom, 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 boom. You never go back to this thing. And again, the story is only in your brain, and Bill's telling you that he is the real champion. But what if? Now stay with me here. What if, Charlie, thanks. What if we created a single book specifically tailored for your character class? And what if it had an enormous character sheet to record every detail of your character? Every stat, every strength, weakness, magic item, enemy, ally, even your familiar. And then took all the official Pathfinder rules, the spells, feats, and skills that you need for your class and your class only, and combined that with an expansive journal to capture your story. And obviously it's only useful if it's on heavy paper to handle the years of wear and tear, and bound on a lay-flat binding so you can use every inch of it. And of course, us being us, we add amazing artwork from across the Pathfinder universe, as well as our own custom pieces, commissioned specifically for this book. And that's why I'm here today, to introduce you to Beadle and Grimm's Complete Character Chronicle. Character sheet, rulebook, journal, all in one. The tools to tell your story and the pages to preserve it. If my story had been included in one of these, I'm pretty sure that Beadle, the greatest dungeon delver ever, would have been the true hero of the group. Not Bodum, not Tanner, and definitely not Grimm. Because it all would have been written down, the incontestable truth. Or at least, a well-documented lie. which is just as good. I'm Matthew Lillard, and we are Beadle Grimm.
Brings a tear to my eye. Seriously, guys, links in the description. Go check out Beadle and Grimm's. And thank you again for sponsoring this video and leaving the rest of it completely ad-free. Now let's talk archetypes. Starting off with one of my personal favorite archetypes, the Snarecrafter. Now, I don't love it because it's super powerful or super game-breaking. I just love the mechanics. And finally, you don't have to be a ranger to make use of snares. Originally, only rangers could make solid use of these things, and only rangers could make free snares per day. Now with this archetype, anybody with the crafting skill and the snare crafting skill feat can make 4 snares per day, no cost. Additionally, any snare that would normally take 1 minute to craft now only takes 3 actions. That means beyond your 4 free snares, you can craft more so long as you pay for them and craft them in just 3 actions. And to my knowledge, all snares only take 1 minute to craft unless it states otherwise. So this is already amazing. 4 free snares per day, and for a couple gold pieces and 3 actions, you can throw together an extra snare, which chances are you're not going to use this in combat. So if you have the money and resources to spare, you can just throw these things together. Fantastic. Imagine if a wizard could spend money on extra spell slots per day. That's crazy. Plus, you get even more free snares as your proficiency in crafting increases. 6 free per day at Master, and 8 free per day at Legendary. The craziest part of all of this? There's no level restriction. The way crafting works, you can craft anything up to your level, so as long as you get the formula, which is sort of up to your GM, as there's no real in-game way mechanic through leveling up or anything to get more formulas for it, so long as your GM lets you buy or find formulas for more snares, you can just make them. It's like finding new spells for your spellbook. I'm going to make that comparison a lot. I guess I could compare it more to alchemists, but, they get formulas per level. I don't know, this metaphor is going nowhere. Additionally, yes, we're still talking about the dedication here. If you are a ranger with the Snare Specialist feat, which was originally the only way to get free snares per day, these feats stack, y'all. So if you're level 4, and you took Snarecrafter Dedication at 2nd level, and Snare Specialist at 4th level as a ranger, you get 8 snares per day. Once you're a master, you get 12. If you're legendary in crafting, you get 16 free snares per day. Can we talk about this? And again, as long as you have the formula, you make them for free. If you have the formula for a level 15 common snare, you can make 16 of them at no cost every day. This is insane. Now, you still have to use them and assemble them and put them down and all, but let's see if the archetype can make even that a little bit easier. Oh, would you look at that? At level 4, they already do. Surprise Snare. This seems slow as it's a full 3-action manipulate activity. But what it does is you take a snare out of your pocket and you throw it at an enemy and it activates. Now, I shouldn't say throw. I believe it has to be an adjacent square to you, but you literally install one of your snares prepared for quick deployment in a space that's occupied by an opponent. You don't even have to have had the snare down. You can pull it out of your pocket and trigger it on your opponent. It's basically taking a bear trap out and slamming it down on your opponent's head. Now, the DC to resist the snare is reduced by 2 because of the quick deployment method, and they obviously see it coming. Also along that same line, if the snare makes an attack roll instead of requiring a saving throw, the attack roll gets -2. So basically everything the snare does is at -2, but you can do it at will to an opponent right in front of you. This is a character I want to play so bad, where just on your turn, I guess the hard part is, it doesn't say you need to have it in your hands, It just says for 3 actions, you install it into a space occupied by an opponent. And obviously for 3 actions, it ideally wouldn't require 1 action to draw it out of your backpack or something, as that would make this entirely useless, as that would be a 4-action activity effectively. I would count the drawing of the snare and installing it all within that 3 actions. So sure, this takes up your entire turn, but it's just so cool. If you're worried about a campaign where you don't have time to set up traps ahead of time and you don't think the enemies will walk into them, well, you can just throw your snares at people now. They're a little easier to resist, sure, but it's so freaking cool. Remote Trigger at level 6 has a variety of uses and is once again just such a really useful feat within the archetype. You can shoot snares to trigger them. You know the pressure points and exactly how snares work, so you can just attack them to trigger them, whether this means with a melee attack from an adjacent square or a ranged attack from super far away. If you crafted the snare, you don't even need to roll. You know exactly how your snares work, and what this means is if an enemy is standing next to a snare and hasn't triggered it, but your snare happens to have maybe an area of effect burst style effect, you can trigger it from a range and have it affect everything around the snare. You can set up these really cool fireball-style snares. I don't think there is a fireball snare, but you get the idea that you can set off from a distance, and it's so cool. Additionally, if you see an enemy hiding behind a wall of traps, you can just take your time and start disabling them by firing off arrows from a distance. Oh, it's so cool. I love this archetype, guys. Giant Snare is a solid upgrade. It spends 2 of your free snares to make one of them, but rather than only taking up one 5-foot square, it takes up an entire 10-foot by 10-foot square, with the entire thing being the trigger point. Additionally, it expands the effect. If the snare would only affect 5 feet of area where the creature triggers it, it instead affects the entire 10-foot by 10-foot snare. So you're spending 2 snares to quadruple the size of one snare. That's a net gain, in my opinion. Plus, way easier to trap a whole hallway with a massive snare. Finally, plentiful snares. If you want this, if you just love using snares, this is the feat for you. You get double the free snares per day, which means if you're a ranger with plentiful snares, obviously the Snarecrafter dedication, and their original snare feat, that's 24 free snares every day if you're legendary in crafting, which also could be 12 giant snares. God, I love this dedication. What else is there to say about this? You get some of the other ranger snare feats, including quick snares and lightning snares and powerful snares, and it's just incredible. If you are using snares at all, you want this archetype. It's just so much. This archetype is better at using snares than the ranger. The ranger doesn't have things like surprise snare and giant snare. This is just awesome. It's just awesome. Is it super overpowered? No. Using 3 actions to surprise a snare on someone likely won't have as good damage economy as simply attacking in some ways, but it's so cool, and it's so versatile. With options like surprise snare and remote trigger, you can use your snares in so many ways. Detonate them from a distance, detonate them on their head, make them massive. I can't talk enough. There's nothing else to be said. I like this archetype. Moving on. Moving on to a very similar archetype that I think falls really flat. I'm sorry, there's so many people out there who have been like, I can't wait for him to talk about the Talisman Dabbler. I love the Talisman Dabbler. It's so cool. Let's go over it first. An upside is you don't need any proficiency in any skill to take this, not even crafting, weirdly enough. Now, the dedication grants 2 things, which at first glance it doesn't seem quite as powerful, but when you realize what it all comes together to, it is a little bit better than I give it credit for. First off, you just know the formula for all common talismans of your level or lower. Amazing. You don't even need to learn them as you level up. You just have them. Additionally, you don't even need a formula book. It's just all upstairs. Now, the big selling point, similar to an alchemist, is that you can make 2 talismans for free during your daily preparations every day. The downside being they can be no more than half your level. And like most things like this, when you create them, they only last 24 hours. They deactivate at your next daily preparations. The final bonus is that you can affix 4 talismans in 10 minutes rather than 1. And that's what you get. You get this at level 2, and honestly, this archetype is really good for the first 3 or 4 levels. I'll say this archetype shines the most from levels 1 through 4, because of the single talisman, the Potency Crystal. Compared to most of the other level 1 talismans, this one definitely shines the most. Some of the other ones can give you bonuses on certain skill checks, but most talismans are used once per day, and then they're gone. And the Potency Crystal is not an exception. But to be able to have a +1 striking weapon at level 1 is fantastic. Even if it's only for 2 turns out of an entire day, that's still huge. Additionally, you don't even need to make this for yourself. If you're a wizard with the Talisman Dabbler, you can make Potency Crystals and give them to your fighter. Great synergy. But after that, a lot of the talismans are incredibly situational, and unless you know exactly what you're going up against that day, you might not get use out of them. The requirement for the talisman being no more than half your level is incredibly restrictive. There's not a whole lot of talismans out there right now, and only gaining new ones every 2 levels is a bit rough. I have taken the liberty to point out what I think are some of the most useful talismans, but remember that I'm only going to be going up to level 10 because you can only craft the level 10 talisman at level 20 with this archetype. I should say for free. You can still craft talismans, but if your game doesn't have much downtime, the normal crafting isn't going to be super helpful, because talisman crafting does follow the same rules as normal crafting, in that it takes at least 4 days, if not more. So I'm going to be talking about this archetype strictly in what it can make for free versus what it can normally craft. I already talked about the Potency Crystal at level 1, but then once you reach level 3, you can make the effervescent, I hate this word! Effervescent. I've been saying it right, it just doesn't sound right. At level 3, you can make the effervescent ampule. Now, to use this talisman, you do need to be an expert in acrobatics, so maybe not the best choice on your wizard, but it is really cool for what it does, and once again, you can always give it to your fighter. For the rest of the turn you activate this, you can walk on water, any surface that would normally crumble under your weight, and even pressure-sensitive pads without triggering them. The downside is that activating this counts as an action, so you only get 2 actions to actually use its effect. Now this is still cool, 2 move actions, you can move upwards of 50-60 feet, so as long as, if there's a big 50-60 foot pool of water in front of you, you could activate this and sprint across it, and cross it no problem. Really, really neat. But be careful, because the second it wears off, you do plummet through like you normally would. At level 9, you can make the Emerald Grasshopper, which is really cool, which is just for a free action. Your next high jump allows you to jump up to 50 feet vertically. Additionally, if you critically succeed this high jump, you can jump 75 feet. And after finishing the height of your jump, you don't fall instantly. You hover until the end of that turn, and then harmlessly fall down to the ground at 60 feet per round, taking no fall damage. This is amazing. This can get you over some serious hurdles. It's almost flight. Almost. And being able to make it for free at level 9 is really cool. Level 13's Murderer's Knot is cool. It's not the only one of its kind. There's some other talismans that can really buff up specifically a rogue's sneak attack, or anybody else using it. The Murderer's Knot is specifically affixed to a weapon, and should you successfully hit a creature with a strike, you can inflict 1d6 bleed damage by activating it. Now what makes this so good for rogues is that 1d6 bleed is replaced by their sneak attack damage.
If you have the twist the knife feat.
Which at level 13 would be 3d6. So being able to give this to your rogue, or maybe you are a rogue and you attach it to your weapon, then if you hit a flat-footed creature, you can activate the Murderer's Knot and deal 3d6 persistent bleed damage on top of your normal sneak attack damage. This is a fantastic one, just a shame it comes so late. I could go on about more talismans, but there are some good ones out there, but not as many as you would hope. This is an archetype that will get better as more books come out, or maybe even could just be better if your GM lets you homebrew your own talismans. The downside is just, you don't get that many. Every 2 levels you unlock around 2 or 3 new talismans, maybe more, maybe less, depending on the level. But let's move on to some of the other archetype feats, like Quick Fix. Quick Fix is unfortunately a class feat when I think it should personally be a skill feat, but it does allow you to affix 4 talismans in 1 minute instead of the required 10 from the dedication. This does get automatically upgraded at 12th level, which lets you affix a talisman for 3 actions now instead of a full minute. Is it good? Yeah. Is it worth a class feat? No. I would personally home rule this as a skill feat, not a class feat. Deeper Dabbler, in my opinion, is pretty much required at level 8. You can take this at level 8, and it allows you to make 2 more talismans per day. Pretty cool. What I don't like is the special on this feat. you can take it again at level 14 or higher to make 2 more talismans per day. I think that should have been an automatic upgrade. I think if you spend the class feat to take Deeper Dabbler, then you should get 2 more talismans per day, and then automatically get 2 more talismans per day at 14th level. Like I've said, these talismans are not that powerful, especially these ones, because they're still only half your level. Keep in mind, you can only affix 1 talisman to a weapon at any time, so even if you make 6 of these Murderer's Knots for your rogue, he can only use 1 per encounter unless maybe you have Quick Fix, and on your turn can just stand next to the rogue. And this would be kind of a cool, fun gameplay style if your GM allowed it, is your rogue stabs and uses the Murderer's Knot, and then on your turn, you spend all 3 of your actions to just tie another one to his dagger. Or alternatively, which again, this would be really cool, you give your rogue just 6 different daggers and tie a Murderer's Knot to each one. So in combat, they just stab, throw that one to the ground, draw another dagger, stab, throw it, draw, stab, throw it, draw. They have 6 just prepared daggers, each with a Murderer's Knot. I think that would be hilarious. But it's just not worth the feat investment. In order to get 6 talismans per day, you would need to invest 3 of your 10 class feats if you're not playing with free archetype, which I feel like this is definitely designed with the free archetype variant. And Talismanic Sage level 14 is such a poor capstone feat. You can choose 1 item total. That item can have 2 talismans on it. That's it. If you choose another item to have 2 talismans on it, the other one loses a talisman. You can't have multiple items. Why not just let them attach 2 talismans to as many items as they want? Would that be so overpowered? Unless they dumped 3 class feats into this, they can only make 2 or 4, maybe 6. Would it be so overpowered if they dumped so many class feats that they could make 6 talismans per day, that they could equip 3 items with 2 talismans each? I don't think that would be crazy. Maybe it's crazy because I guess you could activate 2 Murderer's Knots at the same time. Maybe that would be nuts, because I guess then you could technically inflict 6d6 persistent bleed damage, even though I don't think persistent damage stacks that way. I don't know. I do not like the Talisman Dabbler. The level restriction is what really holds it back. I know it would be completely unfair if they could make anything for free, but hey, the Snarecrafter can do that! The Snarecrafter can make level 15 snares for free at level 15. So why can't the Talisman Dabbler? I'm upset. Oh boy, the Vigilante. Everybody's favorite. Everybody is looking forward to this archetype. They were before the APG was even out when the name got leaked. I can finally be Batman, or I can be Clark Kent to my Superman. And this whole 2-page long archetype, kinda disappointing, not gonna lie. Let's talk about it. First complaint. The dedication is more than half a page long. Not a valid complaint, I know, but it's crazy. Let's shorten this. The Vigilante Dedication gives you 2 identities. A social identity and a vigilante identity. When you take this dedication, your class and everything associated with you as an adventurer is your vigilante identity. So if you're a ranger and you take this dedication, you are only supposed to be a ranger in your vigilante identity. When you are in your social identity, you are just a common person. A completely other person with their own set of ideals, knowledge, and, yes, alignment. You can have different alignments for your 2 identities, but they can only be 1 step apart. And the book specifically states that a step is not diagonal, which is interesting to me. The reason I say this is because if you look a little closer, you can see that you could be neutral, I assume they mean true neutral, in one identity, and neutral evil in the other. But you could not be true neutral and chaotic evil in your other identity. So that's kind of interesting. You can only be a horizontal or vertical step away between your identities. If someone suspects that you are hiding a second identity, in order to believe it and kind of find proof, they need to make a seek action against your deception DC. However, this is a special deception DC that is 20 plus your proficiency modifier. So if you have a +9 to your deception, your DC is 29. It is incredibly difficult to disprove your identity unless they have solid evidence, in which case I'm sure the GM would lower this DC. Changing from one to the other, very similar to Superman, does take 1 minute in a spot no one can see you. So if you run around a corner, change your clothes, change anything physical, pull off your fake horns, then you can do that. And it takes 1 minute, and as long as no one sees you, you do it successfully. Interestingly, effects such as alignment damage are adjusted based on your identity. If you have one good identity and one neutral identity, and you happen to be in the neutral identity at the moment, evil damage doesn't hurt you. But if you switch to your good identity, evil damage does hurt you. This is because the Vigilante is far more than just you putting on a costume. It does go into detail saying that when you take on your persona, you change mentally. You get into the full mindset of this other person, and it effectively is a second personality that your character fully believes in. It's not just pretending to be someone else. It's far greater than that. Now, it goes into detail about two special kinds of feats, social feats and vigilante feats. Social feats can only be used while in your social identity. Likewise, vigilante feats can only be used in your vigilante identity. Now, you can use them in the other persona, but if you do, you risk giving yourself away. Should your identity be released to the public, you lose all of the benefits of the dedication feat here. People will know who you are no matter which identity you're in. Ideally, though, it's on a town-by-town basis. Hopefully your GM, if you get revealed in one town and then go to a city across the country, people don't just suddenly know who you are there, because that would be kind of unfair. There is a small bonus to being exposed, however, in that you can now use your social and vigilante powers no matter which identity you're in if people already know who you are. So it unlocks that barrier, but you can no longer take advantage of anything that relies on your identity being a secret. Okay, that is the dedication, which I think I actually talked about the Snarecrafter longer, but that's because I actually like the Snarecrafter. Ooh, did I say that? Hidden magic is pretty cool. During your daily preparations, you take time to calm and hide the magic aura of all of your equipment, so you can really appear like a commoner or someone who's not an adventurer, you know? The only way to see through this is for the caster of Detect Magic to make a perception check against your deception DC, and this one is your normal DC, not the 20 plus deception DC. The only prerequisite for this is that you must be an expert in one of the magical related skills, Arcana, Occultism, Nature, or Religion. Also, hidden magic is a skill feat, so this is just really good, and you don't even need to be in your social identity to use it, since it doesn't have the social trait. Really actually solid. Minion Guise is adorable, but can only be used in your social identity. If you have an animal companion, familiar, or any kind of ally with the minion trait specifically, you can magically shift them into something more socially acceptable that fits with your social persona. This might be an extreme case, but for example, if you're a ranger with a gorilla animal companion, then when you switch to your social persona, maybe you groom him, put a suit on him, and force him to walk upright, and he just looks like a really buff guy, like a bodyguard. Dress him up as your bouncer! And that's an example of Minion Guise. I do honestly love this feat. I think it can lead to some hilarious roleplay opportunities. Safe House is a really great feat, but only if you're in a stationary campaign. You establish a 10-foot by 10-foot cube as a safe house. You can use that to store things, hide things, even as a secret base, even though it's really, really tiny. You can hide this anywhere you'd like, and it is permanently under the effects of non-detection, where the only way to find it is to beat your deception DC as the counteract check to get through the non-detection effect. The problem is that setting it up or moving your safe house takes a full week of downtime. So if you're in a campaign with a lot of action and moving around, you're not going to get a lot of use out of this. What is nice is that as your proficiency with deception increases, your safe house increases in size really fast. Even once you're an expert in deception, which by level 4 vigilante, you probably are, it is a 40-foot by 40-foot cube. Once you're a master, it is an 80-foot by 80-foot cube, and if you're legendary in deception, you get a 160-foot by 160-foot cube of safe house. That's a full-on home base, I'll be honest. Social Purview is really cool and sort of allows you to start making your social identity more than just a roleplay mechanic. You can pick any archetype in the game, even a multi-class archetype like Fighter or Wizard, and apply that only to your social archetype. It does not matter if you've only taken 2 feats from Vigilante, you're allowed to take an archetype dedication from anywhere else and begin taking feats under that archetype. Doing things this way, you could be a fighter by day, wizard by night kind of deal, which I think is really, really cool. Just remember, if in your fighter form, you do still have access to your wizard magic and abilities, but if you use it, people can start putting things together and connect that, oh, you're a fighter, you shouldn't have magic. That guy's a wizard. They're the same person. I'm going to go ahead and go over all 3 of the feats on screen together because they all function together and I really don't like them. At level 6, you can get Startling Appearance. For 1 action, you can make a strike. The target is flat-footed, and should your strike connect, they become Frightened 1. Frightened 2 if you critically hit. That's pretty good. But it comes with my least favorite caveat in the entire system. You must be unnoticed by your target. Not undetected, not hidden, unnoticed. I brought this up way back with my assassinate issues. Do you know how hard it is to get up close to someone while remaining unnoticed? You'd have to succeed multiple stealth, hide, and sneak checks. That was redundant, but you need to have everything go perfectly to get up close to them and remain unnoticed. And your reward for that? They're flat-footed, which they already would have been, and if you hit, they become Frightened 1. I mean, they're flat-footed for the rest of the turn, which is cool. You have 2 more actions where they're flat-footed and frightened, which is a good combination, but you can get this just as easily as any character if you flank and demoralize. I'm not a big fan of this, but hey, at level 12, you can upgrade this to Frightening Appearance. When you use Startling Appearance, you can demoralize every other creature within 10 feet, which you were also unnoticed by. If you think about a 10-foot burst, you might be able to target 1 or 2 extra creatures, which is okay. For 1 action, you can demoralize 2 or 3 extra targets and make a strike against a flat-footed creature. It's not bad and can give you a decent edge in the first round of combat, but again, as a reward for being completely unnoticed to multiple creatures, it's just not a lot. I don't think Paizo realized how difficult it is to remain unnoticed. Undetected, yes. Unnoticed, so difficult. Stunning Appearance is fine. It's the final feat for the Vigilante archetype, but again, it's not huge. When you use Startling Appearance, if your target's level is equal to or lower than yours, they become Stunned 1 if you hit with your Startling Appearance strike. They become Stunned 2 if you crit. Pretty good. My problem with all of these feats, which make up a third of the entirety of the Vigilante archetype, is they do nothing once combat has begun. After that first round of combat, these are all dead feats. Cool, you were able to make them Frightened 1, maybe even cost them 1 action, maybe 2 actions, if you manage to critically hit. That's it. That's all you get for this. And again, unless you're using free archetype and you're still able to get class feats along with this, you're trading out class feats, which are usually useful through any and all encounters, unless you're a champion, for the possibility to make them frightened and lose an action. It's just not great. Luckily, you don't need Frightening Appearance to take Stunning Appearance. I just think it's a little bit weak. Back to some more of the roleplay potential ones, which is where I think this archetype does shine. Quick change is great. As long as you're a master in deception, you can change in 3 actions instead of 1 minute. So as long as you can get out of sight for 3 actions, you can just change appearance and leave. This would allow for some really, really funny Scooby-Doo style moments, where if you can hide, obviously it's 3 actions, so you can't hide and do this, but if you can hide, remain hidden for a full round, and then on your next turn, change into your other persona, and then just casually walk out. As long as things don't go horribly wrong, you should be able to get away like that. Especially if you and the rest of your party are causing a distraction and let you hide and they focus on your party and you change into your other persona. Phenomenal. Really great synergy there. Subjective Truth is easily my favorite feat in the entirety of the Vigilante archetype, and it's super simple. You are so committed and believe so hard in the persona in which you are currently active that even Zone of Truth cannot force you to say something that that persona doesn't know. If your fighter persona learned of the whereabouts of buried treasure, but at the moment you're in your wizard persona, even if somebody casts Zone of Truth on you and says, "Do you know where the treasure is?" you can say no. Your persona is so powerful that even Zone of Truth can't trick your mind into saying what your other persona knows. Crazy cool. Also, it's a skill feat. Crazy cool. And many guises is pretty neat. Instead of switching between just your social and vigilante identities, you have an infinite number of mundane identities between them. You can become a peasant, a sailor, a random hunter, anything like that. Now the downside is these are not nearly as solid alibis as your two primaries. To be able to see through these, you only need a normal deception DC, not 20 plus your deception. Additionally, you lose access to all of your vigilante and social feats while in this mode. It's assumed you can still use them, but you will break your identity instantly. Not just at a chance of it, but if you're a farmer and you shoot out a magic missile, people will instantly know you're not a farmer. So as you can probably tell, I'm just not the biggest fan of the vigilante. They get quick draw as an additional feat so you can kind of jump out of nowhere, but this doesn't combo at all with Startling Appearance because you would have to use quick draw first and then Startling Appearance when quick draw just lets you attack after drawing your weapon, so that doesn't combo at all. I just think it's missing something. As a roleplay archetype, this is phenomenal. It's also great as an NPC. It would be hilarious to have 2 recurring NPCs in your campaign, which, especially at a DC of 20 plus deception, the chances of your players figuring it out successfully is really, really weak. But have them keep popping up, and then later in the campaign, maybe someone finally succeeds that crazy perception check and starts to put the pieces together. It would be a really cool plot twist. This is also super useful for your big bad evil guy. If he's the mayor of the town, but also the warlord attempting to overthrow society, having the vigilante archetype would let you mechanically run that and give your players pretty easy, consistent DCs to aim for to fix it, as well as giving you some cool tools to add to that big bad. So roleplay, A+. Mechanically, C-. It's just not there for me. The Viking doesn't know what it wants to be. Starting with the dedication, which requires you trained in athletics, it grants you sailing lore, and additionally you are not slowed by difficult terrain caused by water. What that means is if you're like knee deep in water, you can move full speed, such as in a swamp or on a beach. Also, if you succeed at an athletics check to swim, you crit succeed instead. Solid stuff, it's not bad. Hurling Charge, however, is where my complaints start. It sounds cool in theory. You can throw whatever weapon you're holding, make a stride action, and then draw a new weapon. Cool. Decent action economy, 2 actions for 3 actions worth of stuff. Not bad. My problem was with the ordering. I think it should have been some special case where you can throw a weapon and draw a weapon while you're striding. Make it so that all 3 of these actions happen at the exact same time. The problem with the ordering is that you throw, then you stride, and then you use the manipulate action to draw out your weapon. Are some of you catching on here? Attacks of opportunity in Pathfinder 2e can be triggered by manipulate actions. So this means if you're fighting an NPC with an attack of opportunity, and you throw your hatchet, stride up, and start to draw your battle axe, they get to attack you for free. That's why I think it should happen at the same time, so that your weapon is drawn by the time you get to them, not run up to them first and then draw a weapon. But that's exactly what it says. Range strike with a thrown weapon, stride, and then interact to draw a weapon. It gives you the Raging Thrower Barbarian feat for free if you're already a barbarian, which is cool. And that's all it does. It's not a good feat, I'm sorry. You're way better off with the Fighter or Barbarian just charging feat, which I think some other archetypes give you anyway. The Scout archetype does this way better. Viking weapon familiarity is fine. You get trained in the battle axe, hatchet, longsword, and short sword. but you mostly take this as a way to get the shield block reaction without needing to spend a general feat. That is really good. As something that is usually locked behind either a class feature or a general feat, being able to get shield block just for a class feat is really good. Viking Weapon Specialist, however, is a bit of a letdown. It's your usual specialist like you see in Ancestral Weapon Proficiency. You get the crit specialization effect, which I've always thought are underwhelming and might homebrew in the future. I'll keep you updated on that. And should you ever gain expert or greater proficiency with any weapon, you also get it with those weapons. I seriously need to make a video talking about weapon familiarity feats. They just seem so useless. And the level 6 capstone feat for your Viking, and in my opinion, the only real reason to take the Viking archetype, Second Shield. This is fantastic. This on a champion is crazy good. For a free action, should your shield ever be destroyed or even broken, you can instantly drop it and either draw a new shield out of your backpack entirely as a free action, or reach down next to you and grab something that could function as a shield. And your GM determines the hardness and HP, BT, and everything of the shield right then and there. A little more work for the GM, but totally worth it, cause this is cool. Your shield breaks, grab a stool and hold it sideways as a shield. Or maybe you just have a second shield in your backpack. And especially because it doesn't have to be destroyed, just because you throw down your broken shield, it doesn't mean you can't recollect it and repair it and have these two shields at all times. This effectively doubles your shield's hit points. Phenomenal. Nothing wrong with this at all. I think it's great. I wish the Viking did more with this style of gameplay. The final thing to say about this is that if your shield was raised when it was broken, the new shield is not raised, so you cannot shield block again somehow. Their additional feats are all shield related as well. Reactive shield, shielded stride, quick shield block. It's great. So why is there only one feat in the entirety of the archetype that supports shields and then just the additional feats? I think they should have gone all in on throwing weapons or shields. Instead, they just mashed them together into this archetype that just doesn't do that much. And Hurling Charge is just bad. I'm sorry. I wanted to love the Viking. I just am not a fan of the way it was handled. I think there's promise here. I think this could be tweaked, not even that heavily. Maybe give them some higher level feats beyond level 6, besides the additional feats, and give them some more versatility. I think an upgraded version of Hurling Charge, which requires Hurling Charge, would be great. Or even add one sentence to Hurling Charge that says, the interact action done with this feat does not provoke an attack of opportunity. Simple as that. That would make Hurling Charge instantly viable and a fine feat. Ladies and gentlemen, it is here. Not just the final archetype in the book, but the one that everyone's been waiting for. The Weapon Improviser. Let's look at the dedication. A strange prerequisite is that you must be trained in all martial weapons. This is unfortunate, as this locks this archetype completely behind either A, all martial classes, or B, you have to take the fighter archetype first. But it's a really good dedication. You do not take a -2 for attack rolls with improvised weapons, and anytime your proficiency with any weapon goes up, your improvised weapon proficiency does too. So the second you become a master at level 5 fighters, you become a master in improvised weapons. Improvised pommel at level 4 basically replaces your strike action, because this is different from the strike action. This is a special kind of strike that does not have the flourish trait, so you can use this 3 times in one turn to make a strike with an improvised weapon. That improvised weapon basically becomes +1 striking. It gets +1 to hit and deals an additional damage die. The downside is that if this attack happens to be a critical hit, the weapon is destroyed. At 12th level, you get a very small upgrade of just another +1 to hit, and then at level 16, it becomes greater striking at 3 weapon damage die instead of 2. So it's good, but it does fall off over time compared to runes and actual weapons. Now, Surprise Strike is really cool. It does suffer from the once and done issue I had back with the Vigilante, but it is still pretty fun. The first time you attack a creature that has never seen you attack with an improvised weapon before, they're flat-footed. This basically means your first attack in an encounter will typically be at +2. It's solid, it's not amazing, but it's something, it's a solid bonus to your first attack in an encounter. That's all I can really say about it. Improvised Critical is fine. It's still, critical specializations aren't amazing, but whenever you get a critical hit with an improvised weapon, the GM picks from any of the weapon specializations that would most likely apply to the weapon you're using. If you're using a chair leg, it would probably be a club critical hit. Makeshift Strike is just quick draw, but really good because you might break your weapon. With Makeshift Strike, you can simply pick up anything nearby and slap and strike with it. You could even make it an improvised pummel for the bonus damage. This is really good, especially because if your weapon breaks, your next action can just be another Makeshift Strike to just keep grabbing things around you. The only downside is if you're fighting in an empty, cubic, concrete room that a lot of combat ends up taking place in, unfortunately, it's gonna be tough. GMs, just be nice and let your improvised weapon fighters just grab rocks and loose pieces of wood, Anything that could make for a telekinetic projectile could make for an improvised weapon. And finally, Shattering Strike is the capstone, sadly only at level 10, but it is a really cool reaction that you get to use on your own turn, interestingly enough. Should you use Improvised Pummel and get a critical hit destroying your weapon, you can inflict an additional 3d6 piercing damage on the attack. This is really solid. It is unfortunate that it uses your reaction for that round, but hey, 3d6 extra piercing damage isn't bad. It also specifically says that this 3d6 does not get doubled by a critical hit. My thoughts on the Weapon Improviser. I love it, but it's not what I would call good. I think this is a great archetype for a low-level campaign. If you're only playing up to level 7 or 8, I think a Weapon Improviser is hilarious and great. Once you reach the point where everyone else would be getting greater striking runes and stuff on their weapons, you will start to fall behind, but if you use this just as something to have in your back pocket, I say this a lot, especially if you're using the free archetype variant, having this in your back pocket is not a bad idea. Just in case all your group's weapons get confiscated, well, you can use anything around you as a weapon. It might not happen all the time, but it allows for some really cool backup strategies if you get disarmed or something. So while it's not the most powerful archetype, it is a lot of fun and really interesting to have on hand. And that's it, y'all! We did it! All 40-something archetypes, not counting the ones for the Witch and the Oracle. I'll go over those soon. All of them reviewed, picked apart, analyzed, and complained about by yours truly, No-Nat-Ones. Again, we're not done. We have a lot of other books to cover with archetypes in them, and I'm looking forward to doing it. Words are hard. I'm tired, guys. I've had a long week. But thank you all so much for watching. Once again, thank you so much to Beadle and Grimm for sponsoring the channel and making this entire video YouTube ad-free. You guys are amazing. Check out the links in the description to the Complete Character Chronicles. I want to give a huge shout out to my patrons for always being amazing. They're on this side. They're usually over here, but this time they're over here. Thank you, patrons. Mwah, you're amazing. You're great. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know of any character you're playing that uses an archetype right now. I want to hear some characters in the comments, y'all. I want to hear what you're playing, why you're playing it, your ideas, your strategies. Are you a Beastmaster wizard? Are you a pirate? Tell me all about the archetypes you're using and how it's going. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And until next time, No Nat